Rome wasn't built in a day, but it might have fallen in one. It's no secret that the Roman Empire collapsed a long time ago, and many people know about its collapse. But what is the real reason Rome fell? The traditional story says that it was too decadent to survive, with emperors fighting over power while the barbarians were at the gate. But this traditional story is only partly true. Today, we will be looking at the final days of Rome to see how much of this common story is really true, and what surprises you might learn from Rome's final hours. This is the channel, and today we're going to Rome in 476 AD, the middle of the 5th century, and the Western Roman Empire is in trouble. For decades, Germanic peoples have been migrating into Roman territory, and the Romans have been pushed back further and further. In the south of Italy, the Visigoths live in a large settlement at the foot of Mount Vesuvius, just across the bay from Naples. To the north, other Germanic peoples are gathered along the River Po. In Rome, the emperor is worried. His name is Romulus Augustulus, and he is only 18 years old. He became emperor when his father, Orestes, deposed the previous emperor and had him put to death. Then he made himself emperor after killing his own father. You don't need me to tell you that being the emperor of Rome isn't easy. Romulus is the last in a line of weak emperors, and he's not up for the task. He gets letters from the Gothic kings telling him that they want to invade Italy and take Rome. What should he do? Fortunately for Romulus, he has an advisor who seems to know what to do, a man named Symmachus. Symmachus is a typical Roman aristocrat. He wears fine clothes, lives in a big house, and spends a lot of money throwing parties. As far as he's concerned, the barbarian invasions are someone else's problem. He tells Romulus to ignore the letter and carry on as normal. After all, the Roman army is strong and disciplined. There's no chance those hairy barbarians could ever defeat them, right? Except the Roman army isn't quite as strong as it used to be. Over the past few centuries, Rome has lost huge numbers of soldiers to wars and plagues. Not enough young men are volunteering to serve in the military, and there aren't enough resources to pay or train new recruits. Now, though Symmachus doesn't seem to mind, most of the people living in Rome aren't Roman. They're slaves or foreigners living under the rule of Rome, so there aren't many people who could even fight if they wanted to. Symmachus tries to persuade Romulus to stay in Rome and defend the city, but the emperor is nervous and wants to escape. He sends a letter to the Gothic king, Theodoric the Great, begging him to spare Rome if he can agree to pay him a large sum of gold. But Theodoric isn't interested in gold. What he wants is land. He wants to move his people into Italy and establish a kingdom there. While Rome may have been worth sacking in the past, Theodoric knows that it's too well defended to take by force. So he rejects Romulus's offer and heads north to sack the city of Milan. With the skilled Roman army gone and their leaders fleeing, Rome is vulnerable. When news reaches Rome that Milan has been sacked, Symmachus panics. Finally, he realizes that they are in danger. He urges Romulus to leave the city, but it's too late. Theodoric has already reached Rome. He gives the city one last chance to surrender without a fight, but Symmachus convinces Romulus to resist. Now, Romulus is only a teenager, but he does what any good Roman emperor would do. He throws a party. He invites all of his friends from the Senate and the patrician class, and they drink wine, play games, and wait for the barbarians to come. Outside the city, Teutonic's army is preparing for the attack. They have siege engines like battering rams and catapults that hurl heavy stones. Their soldiers wear armor made of iron, and their shields are made of wood and leather. All of these things are useful for attacking a fortress, but Rome's walls are so high and thick that they're almost impossible to scale. The Goths are forced to try to fight their way through the gates. Fighting continues throughout the day, but the Gothic arrows cannot break through the Roman shields, and the Gothic swords cannot break through the Roman armor. By nightfall, many of the Goths are dead, but the Romans haven't suffered any casualties. With the Goths unable to enter the city, Romulus and Symmachus go back to partying. But now the weather starts to turn. Autumn rains fall on the city and make the ground muddy. Winter snows blanket the ground, making it hard for the Goths to maneuver. And then spring comes with warm temperatures and mosquitoes. You don't need to know a lot about ancient history to know that mosquitoes are bad news. Disease spreads quickly through crowded armies, and soon Theodoric is sick with malaria. Theodoric's army is in bad shape, and winter and spring have taken their toll on Rome as well. Food is starting to run low, and people are getting desperate. Also, Theodoric is getting impatient. He doesn't want to spend another year trying to batter down Rome's gates. He'll give the Romans one last chance. If they open the gates and let him in peacefully, he will forgive them and let them keep their property. Otherwise, he will bring his whole army into the city and kill everyone inside. What did the Romans do? In the end, they choose to fight. And who can blame them? Rome is their home. It's all they've ever known. They've grown up hearing stories of Rome's glory, and they're proud to be Roman. Even if the army isn't as strong as it once was, they can't give up without a fight. So as the Gothic army approaches the gates, the citizens of Rome prepare to defend their city. There are only about 8,000 able-bodied men in the city. Most of them are either too young or too old to fight. Still, they gather whatever weapons they can find and form a defense force. Swords, knives, axes, pitchforks, anything that can be used as a weapon is brought out. The Romans take their positions behind the sturdy wooden barricades and wait for the attack. Teutonic charges forward with his men and gives orders for the gates to be broken down. The Goths push against the gates, but they won't budge. The Goths try to come in from the top, but the Romans pour boiling oil and molten lead onto them and drive them away. This goes on for hours. Neither side can gain the upper hand. As the sun begins to set, something strange happens. A group of Roman soldiers appears at the top of the city wall. At first, the Goths think that it's more reinforcements coming to help the Romans. But then they notice that the soldiers are waving white flags. One of them calls out to the Goths and tells them that he has a message from Romulus. The emperor is ready to surrender. Theodoric accepts the surrender and enters the city. The citizens of Rome watch as the Goths march through the gates. Now Theodoric could have slaughtered the Romans, taken their gold and jewels, and burned the city to the ground. Instead, he shows mercy. He pardons the Romans and allows them to keep their property. The only price he makes them pay is that they must give him food for his army and that they must allow his soldiers to plunder the palaces of Rome's former emperors. After the Goths are fed, Theodoric divides the spoils among his men. The soldiers march through the streets of Rome, taking valuables and fine clothes. They pillage the treasury and haul carts full of gold and silver out of the city. The Romans watch as their great city is looted. When the Goths are finished taking what they want from the city, Theodoric gives an order. "Soldiers, pack your things. We're leaving." He turns to face Romulus and tells him to pack a bag with his most valuable things. Then he puts shackles on the emperor and marches him out of the city. Theodoric establishes his capital at Ravenna in northern Italy, and Rome becomes just another city in his kingdom. Romulus is allowed to keep his fortune and live in luxury in a small house in the countryside. In fact, he lived to be an old man, dying in 507 or 508 AD. Teutonic established a new kingdom in Italy, but it didn't last long. In less than 100 years, the Lombards had pushed the Goths out and taken control of most of northern Italy. Rome survived, but it was never the same again. It went from being the capital of the Western Roman Empire to being just another city in the Gothic kingdom. Then it became a part of the Papal States. Eventually, it became a republic, then a kingdom, and finally the capital of Italy. But that's a story for another time. Now it's time to make your voice heard. Which of these surprised you the most? The malaria epidemic, the emperor's plan to brave the Goths, or the fact that Rome wasn't destroyed? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, but it might have fallen in one.